One of the issues that has come up for me as I've been thinking about the Apollo program, the naming of the Apollo program, and the fact that the lunar orbiter image 1198 had such a clear picture of the face of Apollo on it, and supposedly it was taken in 1967, and that really kind of stuck in my mind for a while when I realized, like, okay, this is the first image of this face of Apollo that they didn't tell us that they saw. And the Apollo mission was actually named, the Apollo program, for the planned manned moon landings was named Apollo in 1960 in the Eisenhower administration, when it was just a proposal. And they kind of dance around in the Wikipedia article about why they named it the Apollo program, and it was some kind of name just alluding to, a god flying through the air kind of thing. And we're basically calling this not true, because there is a very obvious picture of Apollo, and there'd be some really compelling reasons to name it the Apollo program, because the sister of Apollo in mythology was Artemis, which she was a moon goddess, and her brother was a sun goddess. And I know there's people who argue with me on that, but that's the syncretic view. If you take all the different views together and put them together, Artemis was the moon goddess, and Apollo was the sun goddess. So one question is, why didn't they name it the Artemis program? Despite the fact that the military and the government is excruciatingly patriarchal and probably wouldn't name it after a woman, even if she was a goddess. Obviously, it's just compelling to me that it's possible that this entire series of photographs and films were taken before 1967, or they were also looking at some kind of mission before 1967, before 1960, that also showed these features on the moon. So that's kind of one question, is this, to me, that's showing the fact that we're finding a face of Apollo on the back of the moon, which is not visible from Earth because the moon always shows the same face to Earth, means that they had some kind of reconnaissance before 1960, and they saw this image. And one other piece of evidence that I use to say this is the amazing Carl Sagan. There was a project called, this is an article about it, the Archaeological Reconnaissance of the Moon, the result of the SAAM project. And I hope you guys go to the Lunar Anomaly Research Society page on Facebook, because we're putting all this information out there. We have anomalists all over the world, almost about 6,500 people, who are putting information out there about all the aspects of the moon studies that have been done for, centuries, right? And in this article, Archaeological Reconnaissance of the Moon, results of the SAM project, was a speculation of artifacts on the moon. Carl Sagan said this in 1962, so this would have been, again, before the Lunar Orbiter image mission was going to occur. So I'm quoting from this article. In 1962, Sagan spoke on the possibility of discovering alien artifacts on the moon, stating that, and we quote, forthcoming photographic reconnaissance of the moon from space vehicles, particularly of the back, might bear these possibilities in mind. End quote. The article further states, rectangular patterns on the airspace photos are recognized as signs of human culture in the remote sensing of the Earth and air archaeology. It seems reasonable then to search for rectangular patterns on the moon. Anyway, so that's very interesting that Carl Sagan is already seen to be just absolutely psychically aware that, particularly if we look at the back of the moon, we might see some anomalies. How does he know this? Considering he was a professor at Cornell, and it's also been stated that he might have been part of Majestic 12, which that's going to mean something to some of you, and he was actually not talking about what he knew to the public, that he actually saw these images of the backside of the moon with artifactual evidence, archaeological evidence. He was either really, really psychic, or he actually had already viewed these images.
Yes, that's a very interesting discussion and topic. Were these images taken prior to 1966 and 1967? And I think that's very highly possible, given the fact that the Germans, which is who built NASA basically, had different secret programs of their own during World War II, and prior to that, there was the Vril Society and the Theosophical Society, which were little psychic programs, involved in the interest of human origin. And they talked a lot about Atlantis and where Atlantis could be, and where possibly these old temples could be, and so on. So where did they end up? Probably on the backside of the moon. This is probably where the German direction went, is towards space. And given the nature of the naming of the Apollo program, and it not being a mission but a program, it sort of gives us a clue that the program was named after a search for origin, because they are going into space and they are looking for where we came from. They are absolutely obsessed with that fact of where they came from, because they want to prove supremacy of some sort.
And they already, and the stuff that comes out in the sort of back channels of research is that they actually had a craft capable of going to the moon before the end of the war, and the Project Paperclip Nazi scientists were brought to the United States to build our rocketry program. They were experimenting with the Vril craft. The Vril Society and the Thule Society had gotten the information to put together basically craft that was capable of flying to the moon. They might have already been up and around the backside.
Oh yeah, most of the UFOs that have been seen in the 40s and 50s were probably German.
Right. And so we're saying, if they named it the Apollo, the program, before 1960, chances are they're doing so because they saw the images that we're talking about before.
Yeah, they definitely, I think they definitely saw them before that.
So that kind of leads us to what was the Apollo program?
Yeah, well, the Apollo program, I believe, is an esoteric observation. And they took pictures of these things that are embedded, and they don't really understand what they are, but they know that they are involved with human origin somehow. And it's why they asked me when I was 15 what I thought about them, because I could see them, for one thing.
And then you're the guy that possibly illuminates them, and then your images end up being packaged and made into a slideshow and shown to you in 1982, which is also indicating they've been tinkering with time travel a little bit as well.
Yeah, to me that is what the old Magi's did, and that was their job, is observation. Copernicus looked at the stars. It was an observational thing, and that's what these Magi were all about. They would collect observations, and they would make predictions based on those observations. And it is magic with intention, and that is part of that esoteric program. So when I'm observing these things, I'm probably helping them somehow, but I don't mind. That's I am also interested in human origin, but not for the same reasons.
Yeah, it's the ultimate human quest, right?
It's the ultimate human quest. Where did we come from? What are our roots, and what are our capabilities, and what kind of technology do we really have today?
Who are we, and are we alone in the universe?
Yes, are we alone in the universe?